Evening, everyone. Wanted to create a special video today. Um, I didn't realize until um, earlier today that right before I headed out for my appointment, that today was World Cancer Day. Um, show you here. World Cancer Day. Please reach out to anyone you know who is dealing with cancer, whether themselves or someone they love. One of the shittiest things about cancer is people backing away from the illness or the associated grief or anticipated grief. Be brave, show up, love, and anyone who is cancer lonely, I'm here. I'm cancer lonely. My daughter's grown. She's married. She's living with her husband and his grandmother a couple of hours away. I don't see much of her. Most of my interactions are electronic. So, seeing this, it hit, and coming from Kate Beckinsale, who is, I'd be hard pressed to find an actress that I love nearly as much as her. You know, she's had so many roles that I've loved. Top of the list is Celine from Underworld, and then her role in Van Helsing and some of our others, and seeing the stuff she posts on Instagram and such. But seeing this, I hadn't remembered that today was World Cancer Day. So, special video for World Cancer Day. I wanted to show you what it's like dealing with cancer, and I'm dealing with it by myself. And today was brought me up to 24 grays. Treatment day 12, I get two grays a day. An equivalent unit roughly is a sievert. A little bit higher, a little bit lower, depending upon the tissues involved and the radiation and everything. But you could roughly think of it as 24 sieverts as well. Give you an idea, it's focused in an area the size of my palm, about as deep as my palm would be if you got it down under, got it flush. They're focusing on the lymph nodes and whatnot, some of the deeper lymph nodes too. And, they've got a deal that scans around, and they do 3 passes. That way, this side of my head gets heavier doses, but, when the beam's coming from over here going through, this side gets a lot less. And then it's also helped along, pull up a what I'm dealing with in terms of treatment is I'm dealing with something that is referred to as intensity modulated radiation therapy. There might be a similar name for it, but it's basically how they scan and such. And, this is a different model than what you'll see, but it's nearly the same. They've got an emitter over here for what is essentially a CT scan. Over here is the digital receiver, digital detector that picks up what's gone through you to allow them to put the CT scan together. And this is the main part of the linear accelerator. The beam comes across, through here, is reflected down, and I'm getting my current treatments are high energy photons, X-rays, hard X-rays, in fact. probably in the neighborhood of 5 to 15 million electron volt photons. This is up in the area where you start wondering, there's different ways of looking at X-rays versus gamma rays. Wavelength-wise, I'm probably, if you're looking at the energy, I'm probably up into the gamma ray range if you look at energy to differentiate. Even though sometimes they look at it and they go by the processes involved. But, inside right here is what they call a multi-leaf collimator. They've got little blades of material. These things move as it rotates around, and it allows them to change the shape of the beam so that they're only exposing what they need to. But, in terms of dosages, at the a mile out from the hypocenter of Fukushima, folks received about 9.6, 9.8 gray of exposure whole body. We all know what that caused. Thankfully for me, it's like I said, it's focused on my head, and so the rest of my body is there helping to heal what's getting exposed up here. And thankfully, the healthy cells can get boosted, while the cancer cells aren't so good at getting boosted by your healing mechanism. But yeah, this is a slice of my day, going from when I leave in the or the way you folks are seeing it, going from when I leave to head to my appointment, my drive over. About 30 minutes in, you'll see me walk in, greet Stephanie, who's the receptionist, among other things there. Then I'll go back, and Brian and Rachel will set me up, and then you'll see me get the CT scan. And there's a couple minutes where it just sits there, and that's the computer's computing what I'm going to get dosage wise that day, and based on the guidelines that the radiological oncologist entered into the system. And after that, it'll position me a little bit better, little tweaks, and then you'll hear a different buzz, higher pitch buzz, and it'll start, it'll have positioned itself off here on my right hand side. I'm looking through the holes in the mask, and it positions about 30-45 degrees off of straight ahead. It's centered on my ear, and it scans clear to down straight back behind me. They make some adjustments. It scans again. Then they make another adjustment, and they scan it back again. And total dosage time is about 2 minutes. It's about 40 seconds each pass, and two grays spread out over 2 minutes roughly. And when all's said and done, come here, sweetie. Hey, you're not supposed to do that. Say hi to Destiny. This is my sweet baby girl. They come in and they proceed to unfasten me from the table. I literally could not get up if I tried to. I'm that securely fastened to the table by my head. But and at the tail end of that, you'll also get a chance. Today was an odd day. They had not reset the machine completely, and I actually got a little clip of the collimator, so you'll be able to see that. But yeah, this is a picture of my day, and I'll include at the tail end of it also a short deal showing what I end up having to deal with for 30 minutes each night after I floss and brush, and basically have done what most folks have done for their nightly routine. You know, I get to add in treating my teeth with fluoride because of the effects it's having on the bone here on my jaw, along with the salivary glands on that side. So, um, like I said, it's long, skim through, but it gives you a picture of what it's like going through with cancer, what it takes out of your day, and you'll actually see how some of the exhaustion shows a little bit. Thankfully, today was not a bad day exhaustion wise, but you'll get to see what it's like, and um, it's kind of odd. Rush Limbaugh, I might despise the man, but he announced yesterday that he's stage 3 lung cancer. Specifically for me, I was stage 3, perhaps borderline stage 4. They didn't find anything spreading, but which would make it definitely stage 4. But I talk about the actual type, squamous cell carcinoma, in the video. But you know, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, regardless of the form. Um, I wish that everybody had the health insurance and didn't have to worry about going bankrupt like so many people do to avoid dying from something like this. Um, he'll have the best doctors he can find. He'll have all the pain meds he needs and everything else. And you know, a item of philosophy of mine, along with trying to be better than just saying he deserves it or anything like that. I wouldn't even wish it on him. Um, you know, he'll have all the best treatment and everything, but part of my mindset is to think of the most unfortunate person you know of, and you know try to treat people the way that person deserves. Nobody deserves cancer. Um, Nobody deserves to die from it or anything, and that's one thing that shaped me for years and years and years. Nobody deserves to be hungry. Nobody deserves to be homeless. Nobody deserves to not be able to take proper care of themselves and seek out doctors or therapists or any of that. And, part of society, part of being a part of society, part of paying the dues is paying the taxes to help support things like that. Um, you know, we are not islands. John Donne says, "No, no man is an island unto himself," and he goes on to say, "Do not ask for whom the bell tolls; it tolls for thee." And I think that if we allow ourselves to get selfish and say, "Oh, gee, they should be able to afford insurance on their own and this and that," we're creating ourselves as an island and setting ourselves to be washed away morally. And, part of society, we need to help one another. But I'm going to wrap the intro up, and this is a slice of my day.
Okay. Gotta do something special this time around. It's February 4th, and from a post that one of my favorite actresses, Kate Beckinsale, posted, she said that today is World Cancer Day, which it is. And I was not aware of this fact, and so in honor of World Cancer Day and all of those fighting the battle like I am, I figured I would share my day. Like I said, it's about 2:04, 2:05. And I really love what Kate posted. And I've been posting videos, as some of you may know or will notice, find out, detailing my battle with cancer. It's 2:06, so I better get moving. But because it's World Cancer Day, and this may be the first video you see, a little bit of an introduction. You could get the same thing out of other videos as well, but my name's Doug. Last name is actually pronounced Needham, but try to get people to spell it, and it's easier to pronounce it Needham. Must have pork. I'm in my mid-50s. I am a single father, empty nester. My daughter was, she's 25 now, if I'm doing the math correctly. Normally I wouldn't even add that on. She's married and lives about 90 minutes, 2 hours, somewhere around in there, up the Shenandoah Valley at the top end, with her husband and her husband's family. And they moved out actually a year ago yesterday to move in with his grandmother. But I live in Central Virginia, a place called Waynesboro. And I better put this on. If you don't know where Waynesboro's at, about half an hour west of Stanton. I don't know why I reverted back to the incorrect pronunciation. Well, I probably could guess, but about a half hour west of Stanton, Virginia, about and a half hour east of Charlottesville, Virginia, where Jefferson's Monticello is, and the University of Virginia and such. In fact, I'm being treated by the University of Virginia hospital system. But I moved down here in 2012, and my then wife had a friend she wanted to be with. I wanted to be down here because mom's side of the family is from this area. I've got relatives that lived here in Waynesboro some years ago. The mom and my grandparents were over in Covington, which is about 90 minutes away, heading up I-64. But I'm a computer engineer. I studied astrophysics. I've been a volunteer in emergency services and such, so I understand, and I've got a strong physical sciences background, astrophysics, chemistry, some geology and whatnot from when I was a kid. But I do computer engineering, and my degree took me from designing the gates with individual transistors and all that, clear up through the writing the applications and such. And among the things that I worked on while in college was getting Ohio State onto the internet back when there were only 750 hosts on the net. We got I think it's a state trooper coming up. I'm crossing Afton Mountain right now, and speed limit's 65 up through here. Charlottesville. But yeah, I'm crossing Afton Mountain, which, if you look it up in the on the maps and then Wikipedia, you find out it's where I-64 crosses the Blue Ridge Mountains. Here in a moment, I'll actually mention it just to give you an idea. But I'll actually cross underneath where Skyline Drive turns into the Blue Ridge Parkway. The direction I'm going, Skyline Drive's off to the left, and Blue Ridge Parkway's off to my right, heading on down through the rest of Virginia on into Tennessee and such. But yeah, I'm a computer engineer. I moved down here because my wife wanted to move down here to be my ex-wife at the time. Wanted to be down here with her girlfriend, which turned into literal girlfriend, and we moved down here right after, literally the day after my daughter's high school graduation. We loaded up the truck for the most part and headed off to the graduation, and then finished loading up the last few things that next morning, and we were on the road. And I'm just now passing the exit, and in just a second, about 5 seconds or so, you'll see me pass under a bridge, perhaps. Yeah, that bridge there is where the Blue Ridge Parkway and Skyline Drive come together, turn into one another. I'm now on the Afton side, and there is a beautiful view here. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to move down here. I spent a third of my childhood down at my grandparents', visiting with my grandparents, my cousins, and whatnot. And these mountains, they're in my genes, they're in my blood, they're in my soul. But the events of the past few years and whatnot, the pretty shiny has been dented up and tarnished. So I'm gonna be relocating. I have a handful of friends down here, but it's hard to get together with them and such. And I'm in the Society for Grave Anachronism. It's a medieval living history group, and the local kingdom just isn't the same as the kingdom up in West Virginia and Western Pennsylvania. And so, you know, I decided after being laid off for a year that I needed to move someplace. And there are a few places I thought about. I don't want to move further south if I can help it. I like cooler climates. Of course, Pennsylvania's not that much cooler. I gotta laugh at that. You know, down here I can at least go up to Raven's Roost, which is a local scenic overlook on the parkway, and look down over, and things are 5 to 10 degrees cooler up there depending upon the day. But back in probably 20, and the SCA figures into this. I've got a picture of me from back when my daughter was in kindergarten, and I'm standing there in armor, and she's standing there beside me. I'm holding my shield and my helmet and all that. And in August, and it's moved up into July, you know, end of July, beginning of August, north of Pittsburgh, there's something called the Pensic War. And it culminates the whole spring and summer being a lot of, you know, start off, you know, at some events we're talking 5 or 10 guys on a side. If you look up on YouTube Pensic War, you'll see battles where there are thousands of us on a side. And that's about an hour north of Pittsburgh. One reason why Pittsburgh in the SCA is known as Barony March of the Debatable Lands. Joke being that the loser got to keep Pittsburgh. Not in reality. It always belonged to the East Kingdom until Ethelmark became a kingdom on their own. But it's my SCA home, and lots more people up there. But, you know, I was spending a lot of time out in the sun in the summer. Never used to burn. I'd get a little red. Next morning, it's gone. No real hurting, no pain or anything. In fact, even as when I was a teen working over on the neighbor's farm, I never burned at all. But then, you know, my nose started getting red about the time I was 17, 18. Maybe the tops of my feet, but that was about it. Part of it's my Native American ancestry. My great grandmother on mom's side, maternal path, was Chiricahua Apache. So that's all we know. She was sent east to become civilized, forced to give up all her culture and acclimate to the European culture. You know, lose her name and her birth language and everything. And so, and this was back late 1800s from what I've figured out. But I'd get red. I'd think about sunblock. I'd put it on and whatnot. Occasionally I'd be there and I'd go, do I need to put on more sunblock? And no, don't need it. And, that is one of the biggest mistakes I made. And you'll see me do this. I'm every time I do the number one talking about these, I think of Jack Palance and his roles in City Slickers. And he was a great actor in so many different roles. He played in the Buck Rogers TV series. He played in westerns and whatnot. Great actor. And he played in City Slickers, played a cowboy. And he talked about one thing, but never said what that one thing was. And it and the sequel are great movies to watch. But the number one takeaway from all this for me to pass on. The number one takeaway is, if you have to ask yourself, do I need to put more sunblock on? If you have to ask yourself, have I gotten too much sun? The answer is never no. The answer is always yes. But, about 5-10 years ago, I'd have to do some real digging to find out when I think it was post move down here. I had what I thought was a mosquito bite on the top of my ear, right up here. But it didn't heal. And with hair like this, the hair was constantly getting stuck in the scab, peeling the scab off, whatnot. I wrote it off as that. It was the only sign. But it continued to get worse and worse. And I finally got a decent health insurance that covered things down here. And I finally got an insurance policy that had providers halfway close that were in network, instead of having to drive 45 minutes plus away. And I had a PCP, and I got my PCP to refer me to the dermatologist, and the dermatology place took a biopsy, and it came back squamous cell carcinoma. Now, there are different types of skin cancer. There's squamous cell carcinoma. I think basal cell carcinoma is another form of can be another form of skin cancer. And then there's melanoma. Melanoma is the freaky, scary, really freaky, scary one. Squamous cell, I was told it was a slower progressing form, didn't tend to spread that much and such. And they basically took off the top of the ear. If you laid a ruler across this part of at the top where the ear attaches, laid it across horizontal, they took off the top of my ear. Bobbed me kind of like a neutered cat is these days. When you get your cat fixed, they clip the ear. And the way they did it, the skin basically had to heal back over the cartilage and everything. And right back here at the back corner, it mostly healed, but it was real tender and such. And then it started unhealing. And about that time, I got to my primary care physician. I was working on getting a referral, and the company I worked for down here laid me off. And I spent a year laid off. And so September, I got a new job in May of last year after more than a year of being laid off. I had exhausted my retirement savings and everything, and the whole process, and I knew what the original medical bills had come to for just the top of the year. So I knew I was looking at least $20,000 of medical expenses that I couldn't afford. So I got the new job. It's a startup. I'm in fact wearing a shirt for the company I work for, which is appropriate today. I'm fighting this, even though it is a very hard battle on your own. But the company didn't have insurance yet, and it drug out a little bit longer than I liked at the time. And so I finally got insurance. The company finally got us an insurance plan. Started up September 1st. And trying to get in to see doctors and such. You call and, it'll be 2 months before we can get you in. But I got in to see the dermatologist, and they're there and they're going, yeah, this is what we're gonna do and whatnot. Oh, and a little bit of background. When I was 11, right after my 11th birthday, my birthday is tail end of September, and that last week of September, or very first couple of days of October, right around my 11th birthday, 6th grade, I wound up having some abnormal bleeding, and I was at school, and I mentioned it to my gym teacher, and thought was maybe I'd herniated myself or something like that. Mom came, picked me up, took me to a local doctor. Local doctor called the hospital, and I was admitted to the hospital. They didn't know what it was for certain. They thought perhaps it was nephritis or something else. Turns out it was bladder cancer. I spent the entire month of October, my 6th grade year, in the hospital. So, when they first did the removing the top of the ear, I'm sitting there, they take an incision, they cut off a chunk, they check to see if it's clear. If not, they cut more off. It's something called Mohs. I can't remember what it stands for, but I'm there and I'm realizing I'm having a panic attack. So I also mentioned to the dermatologist, I say, hey, it may seem otherwise, but I'm fighting a major panic attack here. And between the amount that they were looking at removing and such, they were debating, just go for a Mohs procedure and remove things or remove the whole ear. The panic attack, they're there and they're going, okay, we're going to take the whole ear, we're going to send you over to a head and neck otorologist, ENT, for lack of a better, I can't pronounce it easily, the proper term, ear, nose, and throat surgeon. And so Dr. Flowers sent me over to a Dr. Fetter over at the ENT clinic at UVA. And Dr. Fetter is a real wonderful surgeon. She's got great bedside manner, just like Dr. Flowers and all. But in fact, I've not encountered anybody with crappy bedside manner, etc., etc. Everybody's been great. And so I'm in December they took the ear, and after a couple of weeks of healing, they also biopsied the lymph node. And prior to surgery, they did a CT scan and an EKG. I guess they're now calling them ECGs, at least here, to check my heart, given that I was going under general surgery. And so I healed up a couple weeks, and then they checked it, and they also referred me to a radiological oncologist. Now, this is in December. Originally, the referral for the ENT clinic was to be February, which reminds me, I got a call about an appointment that is on my schedule to see if it's actually hearing or what. But they moved it from February, mid-February, so about a week from now, I think it was, to beginning of December. And Dr. Fetter said, well, we can get you into surgery next Monday. So that was real nice. On the follow-up appointment, they also made me an appointment over to the radiological oncology folks to discuss radiation treatments because of the size of the tumor. And so I got a referral over here, and they said, because of the size of it and everything, we recommend radiation treatments. And today is treatment 12 for me. And today will bring me up to a total of 24 grays, focused on an area about the size of my palm. And about as deep, basically if you cut out something as big and as deep as my palm, that's the area they're focusing on, centered right on the ear. And now that I'm here and I've got a minute, I'll go ahead and head in here in a minute anyways. But you can see the ear. It's not pretty, but yeah, and amongst all this, I'm dealing with panic attacks and whatnot. And I remembered Simone Gertz. She I think she calls herself Queen of the Ugly Robots. She's doing stuff with Adam Savage of Mythbusters fame these days. But she had a brain tumor. And she nicknamed it Brian the Brain Tumor. And I'm dealing with all the anxiety and stress, and panic attacks. Not knowing the full extent of things. And other than the fact that, potential for it to have spread, panic attacks, constant panic attack when I stop to think about it. And so I'm there and I'm going, okay, I need to come up with something to distract myself. I need to have some fun doing it. And I'm there and I'm thinking, what can I name my ear tumor? And I thought about it, and I wanted something, just as neat as Brian the Brain Tumor, blank the ear tumor. And I'm thinking about it, and the Ray Stevens song came to mind. Oh, another takeaway: if something's not healing, go to the doctor. Yes, my daughter kept telling me, Dad, you need to go to the doctor, and between not having insurance or being so busy at work, working 60-hour weeks and whatnot, don't put off stuff like this. But I was there thinking, and it occurred to me. Erik the Awful, the Horrible and Tenacious, Ray Stevens, same guy who brought us The Streak and the Squirrel That Went to Church, or whatever the name of that one is, or the he's got a whole list of funny ones. Erik the Awful, Ahab the Arab, and Erik the Awful. And I'm there and I'm going, okay, the tumor's Erik. Okay, part one. I got a warning about maximum file size. So, Erik the Awful, I don't know if it's Erik or Erik Erikson. Technically, it's probably Erik Erikson, but it's still Erik. Erik the Awful, But I was there and I'm thinking, okay, I need something for the lymph node. And I was thinking, and I want something with an L. And it occurred to me, the Norse god, which is the equivalent of Prometheus, who animated humans, Lothar. Really weird spelling. L-O with umlauts over it. Freaky D / a thorn. Is that a thorn or is this an F? I can't remember off the top of my hand. I think it's the F. But RR. Look at the title or description. I'll have it there. But he's the one that animated humans. I'll have to edit these together. But so Erik and Lothar. And oh, it's a beautiful day today temp-wise. It's high 60s, I'm thinking. I'm guessing it's probably 70. I'd expect the trees to be green, except for it's February. But, yeah, Erik and Lothar. So here I am walking in. Lovely place. Hey, can't exactly use the term happy with it, but something other than happy World Cancer Day.
Is today World Cancer Day?
Uh-huh.
Well, how did not know that?
I only found out when I was looking at a post by Kate Beckinsale up on Instagram. I don't know quite the adjective to use. You know, you don't want to use happy unless, you know, it's in your past as opposed, you know.
And we're working on a cure.
Yeah, you know, unless you're a
You have no idea how many people come here and they have enjoyed their deal here. They don't. Some people don't even want to stop. I mean, they don't want to have treatment, but they love the social aspect of coming here.
Yeah, you know, and that's the way it is.
Meet other people
Yeah,
here.
and I'm recording a video. You know, can I flip it around for you to say hi?
Hi. Hi.
Yeah, this is Stephanie. She's the receptionist, among other things, and but one of the people that helps me get through this. Next. Okay. So, I got a voicemail. But hi, Teresa. Oh, pretty good. Hey. As I told Stephanie, something other than happy World Cancer Day. Hello. I'm recording a special video for World Cancer Day.
World Cancer Day.
Yeah.
Is that today?
That's today.
Oh.
I didn't know it until I noticed a post by Kate Beckinsale.
I didn't know that either.
But, yeah, there's a little plastic headrest here, and we get the bolus put on, covering ear. Boy, my memory's getting bad. I had to fight to remember yours, and I still can't remember yours.
Name?
Yeah, your name.
Brian.
Ryan or Brian?
Brian with a B.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep. Yeah, I've noticed I'm getting some brain fog. Gee, wonder why.
A lot of information floating around.
Not, can we, I forgot to pull my hair tie out.
Too tight?
Yeah. Stupid me. There.
Ready? Better?
Much. And I'm not wearing a shirt with a neck, so.
All right, here we go.
Yep. So, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to flip out some things over to the sides and do an image to line me up for this. Really interesting is the markings on that actually line it up preliminary. The angled laser beams, and you know, there's one going right across my neck, and then there's a couple on the side that they've got marked in. that get me lined up real quick like. Then they recenter me. And the next thing you hear will be the imaging unit coming in. And they basically do a baby CT scan. And then after that, I get the radiation. So they turn it a little bit. There we go. Back, they turn it, and the computers think for a bit, and that was a preliminary positioning. Think. And positioned. Yep. There it is underneath, but you can see how the lights hit me. And there you can see the multi-beam collimator. It's a really interesting gadget there. And it allows them to narrow it down or widen it up and do all sorts of neat stuff to make it a lot easier on patients such as myself these days. And now we do the turtle trick. Yeah. But yeah, it's fun looking through that. The best description I can come up with is think of looking at the sun up through leaves. Hey Teresa. Yeah, recording a special video for World Cancer Day.
Oh, is that?
That's today.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know it until I saw a post by Kate Beckinsale. Want to say hi on my video?
I'm a little shy.
A little shy. Well, Teresa's the RN here, and she's the one that I talked to coming in and out, and, you know, she's the one that caught the fact that I had a nice pattern from the mask last week and such, and she's the one that weighs me.
Not today, though.
Not today. I think it was a combination of the swelling, not having pulled my ponytail down, and then the neck shirt. But yeah, she weighs me and gets me ready for my doctor's visits with Dr. Reed on Thursdays. And out of curiosity, I was reading that there are sometimes foods that we should avoid when we're not for what I'm dealing with.
If you just eat a well-rounded, fruits, vegetables.
I can't eat or fruits because of allergies, but
Well, but if you continue on a healthy diet, that's all. There are a lot of myths out there when it comes to diet, and probably the biggest question people ask me is about sugar. Should I cut sugar from my diet?
yeah, I hadn't seen that, but I had seen things like, and this is on major websites too, oh shoot, the place that begins with an M, that's the big cancer center.
Mayo Clinic?
Not Mayo, the other one. But, I'd seen places where it said avoid sushi and whatnot. And
you're good.
I was thinking about going out to have Chinese and sushi tonight. And
that sounds like a plan.
Yeah, it's really tough. I found that my appetite's dropping off, and part of that's the depression, part of it's probably the treatments and such. And what was it, Friday or Saturday, I had to send a text message to my best friend and say, hey, pick one of these: Outback, Golden Corral, Applebee's, Ruby Tuesdays.
And what did you guys choose?
She picked Outback.
Oh, that sounds good.
Sadly, she's out in Salt Lake City, so I couldn't treat her. I couldn't treat her.
Okay, all right.
But
no, you're right. It hits you from not just physical, but sure, stress, emotional.
yeah, and I know that my taste buds are changing a little bit.
When you meet with Dr. Reed, we'll let him know that, and I'm just looking, you may get a little bit of your gland there.
Yeah.
But this side should be okay, your other
Yeah.
side, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're getting into the salivary glands and such, and I noticed that I don't know if it was just the particular, how sometimes taste will alter from batch to batch and such.
I mean, with what you eat?
Yeah, like you fix a recipe.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And I don't know how much of it was that and how much of it was, it's hard to tell.
Well, when you meet with Dr. Reed, you can mention it more where
Yeah.
you've had. And if you really start to have issues, we can brainstorm with you. And I also could have the right registered dietitian or
Yeah.
give you a call.
Yeah, but, the tenderness, swelling in here, that start up the first week, it's about the same.
You still have
I both Dr. Jin, the head of the facility, who saw me the first week.
Oh, Dr. Larner?
Dr. Larner, the first week.
You're right on board as far as it's starting to feel a little red and, starting to be a little tender and looking
Yeah,
red. The timing's about right.
Yeah, the first week it started up, and last week it became noticeable, other than just, how am I, paying attention to it. But, it's not that bad. But, yeah, it just, I'm there and I'm paying attention to things more than I normally do.
Well, I guess that's good.
My daughter fussed at me for ages to.
But when you talk to Dr. Reed, because you're getting photons, so I'm not really sure exactly how deep that's going in. So
Yeah.
we'll talk to him, okay?
Yeah. But yeah, it's real minor and such, but just keeping track of things, and that way nothing bad sneaks up. Yeah, no surprises.
Hopefully none.
Yeah. But yeah, well, I'll get home and.
Okay, thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yep, see you tomorrow. But yeah, they're really great here, so.
Bye.
See you tomorrow. But yeah, it's pretty out here. And I don't have to drive in and fuss with parking on campus. Parking on campus at the main hospital is horrendous. I have to fight to go up multiple stories in a parking garage. That typical parking garage is too narrow. If they added just a foot or so on the parking garage. But yeah, as I mentioned when I was talking to Teresa, I've got some right in through here, some tenderness from the lymph glands and whatnot. And I've got a spot where I think it was bunched up on the suture and such that I've mentioned to them and whatnot. The biggie is the fatigue. And, driving over here, another background item is that I'm high functioning autistic. So, the depression comes with that. I've got anxiety, I've got OCD that most of the time is not too bad. But you know, the depression, anxiety, and such take it out of you. And I'm also extremely introvert. I can seem like an extrovert. I probably come across that way in these videos. But you put me in a crowd of strangers and it feels like there's an energy from the crowd that can, it's basically crunching me down like a trash compactor, an emotional trash compactor. Actually, I don't like that. Emotions aren't trash. But I think you get you know, it's the emotions that are the trash compactor. But you know, you know, if I've got somebody with me that keeps me occupied, or I'm in a group, you know, for example, hanging out with friends at a sci-fi convention helps. Being at an SCA event and hanging out with fighters is a lot easier than walking through downtown with the same sort of crowd. You know, if I'm with something or with somebody or doing something special, and, you know, for example, losing myself in displays in a museum. You know, I focus on other things other than the crowd. I do better. Sometimes, you know, I can focus on the crowd and do better. You know, just sort of set myself apart from the crowd. I think rather than cutting over the route I came in on 677, I think I'll go through Crozet itself today. I'll definitely end up hitting the school, but you know, I'm dealing with other things to distract me. But it is at times rough opening up in these videos. One thing that's helping me is I am mentally equating it with a therapy session. Being HFA, I've been through a lot of therapy over the years. And one of the reasons I want to relocate back up to Pittsburgh is to be back up there and be able to go to my old therapist up there. Finding a good therapist where things click and you got the good rapport and everything, and everything works just perfect is difficult. And I've been to a number of different therapists down here, and there was no click. Passing the birthplace of Meriwether Lewis, as in Lewis and Clark. This place is filled with history. And, quick aside, I loved history. Growing up, we went to all the battlefields. I studied World War II, particularly aviation, and tried to learn more about Dad, who was a flight engineer on a PBY, and his PBY was the second PBY in the water the first night of the USS Indianapolis rescue. And I found out so little from Dad because that was his PTSD. Being in the water in a raft tied off to the plane in the night, hearing all these guys crying out for help, and they couldn't reach them. Dad was a happy-go-lucky guy until that event. That one particular event changed him. But history was, history and science, and Mom made sure that I learned. Had lots of learning opportunities. But but dealing with this and being high-functioning autistic, I'm treating this as a therapy session. Because, to be honest, there are a lot of times that I still, those little voices inside that many of us have, they in part form our our conscious, doing right to other people, etc., etc., etc. It's our subconscious talking to our consciousness and whatnot. And, we call it different names, Some people talk about it being an inner voice. Well, sure, it's an inner voice of sorts. But you start talking inner voices, hearing voices, people start going, oh, that's schizophrenia. But, it's one of those many things that you have to watch out for. What one person means by that term is not necessarily the same as somebody else's meaning. And so, it's just like when I took the MMPI to help in diagnosing the autism. It would ask questions like, I am fascinated by fire. And I'm a volunteer firefighter. And, it was part of learning how fire behaved in a situation that I might encounter. And, the physics behind it and everything else, and how forest fires work and whatnot. Doesn't make me a pyromaniac, but questions like that sometimes can have different meanings to different people, which is why designing tests like that are really difficult. But I'm extremely introverted. But just, here's another misunderstanding. Just because you're introverted does not mean that you don't like dealing with people. You might be an introvert and still need a few special people in your life. And it's tough, but more on introversion. Those little voices, I've taken to calling them brain ferrets, because they're also there's the cartoon of the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other. Liz Fair talks about her voice of self doubts, and her box of self doubts. For me, if you've ever known somebody who's had ferrets, you understand what I mean here. Ferrets, lovable little pets, but they get into things, they drag things out, and they leave their little shit pellets all over everything. One reason why I'll never own a ferret. But they take all the shiny things away and leave the other stuff that they've drug out behind. And so I refer to those negative thoughts as brain ferrets. And I'm dealing with this on my own. My daughter, as I said, she lives up with her grandmother-in-law with her husband, and that's 90 minutes, 2 hours away, depending upon traffic. But I'm single, twice divorced. That adds in baggage right there. Between the HFA and everything else, you get to thinking at times that you're broken. Being divorced twice, am I not lovable? And there is a train of thoughts that come up a lot of times with me on this. Is I get to thinking back to my dad's last few years, where all he did was get up in the morning, eat breakfast, get dressed, go into town, sit at the VFW or the Legion or those places, nursing a drink, hoping that somebody came in so that he knew that he could talk to, and get lunch somewhere in there, and end of the day, pick up something, take it home, and sit and watch TV and fall asleep. And in thinking back, when Dad was going through his decline, that is something that triggered a phobia of mine. Yes, I'm introverted, but I got to have those special people. And, I've been divorced twice. Granted, the first one was an abusive marriage. But, the second one, yes, most of her relationship history had been with women, but it still messes with you. Am I broken? Am I unlovable? Whatnot. And going through this, why bother? What's there to live for and whatnot? Because my life right now is literally get up in the morning, put in some hours of work, take a shower, get ready, head out to the treatment, which chews up about an hour and a half, 2 hours, between an hour and a half and 2 hours. Put in more time, and if I'm able, I am fatigued today. Not as bad as over the weekend. Saturday, I slept 17 hours. Sunday, I think I was over 12. My normal is 8 to 9. And it's not just the depression making me want to crawl up in my blanket fort in bed, sleep it away. The fatigue, it was the fatigue that really made it difficult to go without taking a nap. I might take a nap this afternoon, I don't know. If I do, it's probably gonna end up being about 2 to 3 hours. Starting back up after Mountain. Switch lanes. Because I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 semis in half a mile, all sitting there, blink, 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 doing about 40 miles an hour if they're lucky. Oh, wow. A nice, shiny, open top gondola type truck. But, there's the whole lot of why bother, what's there to live for and such. And, yes, there are wonderful people out there who, if provided we met and situations were relationships. There was the girl I took to my senior prom that I dated for 3 years. And all of a sudden, she stopped returning my calls, wouldn't return letters, whatnot. There was my first ex, who it seemed to be a wonderful relationship, but I look back and I see the seeds for what ended up being a marriage where she was misspending my money, verbally abusive, emotionally abusive, everything but hitting me. The punching me, hitting me with a pan, or attacking me with weapons, it was everything short of that. That one last line. All the stuff that doesn't leave bruises or wounds that you go get stitched up or set in a cast. And my second ex, at the end it was just, I'd work during the day even though I was working from home. She would be, doing homeschooling for her girlfriend's daughter, or running errands that were more often than not for her girlfriend, or things like that. And then, in the evenings it was, oh gee, we're going to do laundry, we're going to do grocery shopping, we're doing something special. Or she'd be sleeping until 9 o'clock, and around about 9 o'clock she'd get up if she were sleeping, or she'd end up going over to her girlfriend's and spending the night until like 3:30 in the morning. Many times not even bothering to say, hey, I'm leaving. And get home and she'd sleep downstairs. And I might go 2 or 3 days without seeing her or hearing anything from her. That really messes with your head. And, even though we had gotten married with the understanding that, yes, she could have a girlfriend, given her history of mostly having been with gals, I was supposed to be the primary partner. And you don't take a primary partner and say, well, you get what you're lucky to get between the end of your work day and 9 p.m. unless, of course, there's laundry or groceries or something like that. That's not a primary partner. And, I brought up my concerns, my feelings quite a few times, and all I got was, oh, you need to get yourself a girlfriend. No. What needed to happen on that side, or as things happened, she ended up leaving me, and I needed to get rid of her. But that just makes you feel broken, unlovable. And it feeds the brain ferrets of what point is there in going on? You know, the likelihood of my daughter having a kid is, I'd say next to zero. She's got her health issues, and I doubt that she'll end up having a kid for that other reasons. And you know, there's supposed to be more to life than work, eating, and sleeping. Another reason I want to move up to Pittsburgh. But yeah, with the cancer, you know, it takes those ferrets and it feeds them. And it's really tough at times. You know, when I'm not dealing with this and paying the bills associated with it, you know, I paid $2,500 on Friday for January's bill. You know, I'm making six figures. I'll put it at that. I'm making six figures. I'm getting things from the financial messes from the marriages straightened out, the misspending and whatnot. You know, I thought nothing of going up to Salt Lake City for the 4th of July, week of the 4th of July, when I started working May 1st. You know, it was something like my third or fourth bi-weekly check. You know, I got to the point where I could do that. And you know, I can manage to go to cons and such, but you know, if it weren't for the fact that I've had the medical bills that I've had, and I've got a property tax bill coming up, I could quite easily take vacation and fly someplace. But in fact, if I sit there and I throw it into the budget, I could very easily take the con that I'm already going to be going to in March, I think it is. Or is it April? Fantasy. I could very easily throw in fly my best friend out here if she wanted to come out here. But you know, it just, yes, that's something to for me to keep in mind in the what is there to live for, you know, why bother? But it's hard to keep, you know, those brain ferrets keep taking thoughts like that away and leaving the why bother, you know, leaving the negative thoughts behind. And you know, it's tough, but you know, here I am, 3:35. I left at about 2, so an hour and a half to get my treatment done and all, and go through. But you know, this is, you know, sitting at my desk working and getting naps and whatnot. This is my life right now. It's tough. If you got people out there, you know, let them know what you're going through. If nothing else, you know, people have negative ideas on therapy and, you know, seeing a shrink. But do we have problems with, oh, gee, you know, you got a broken arm, or you cut yourself, or, you know, you got cancer? Do we think anything about going to doctors for that? Other than the health insurance deal, you know, I'm a big proponent of single payer health insurance. You know, you don't have, it would cut down the cost because the providers wouldn't have to sit there and do a coding system, you know, do one coding system for Aetna, do another coding system for UHC, do a third one for some other provider. It would be the same coding system. All providers, you know, you don't have to worry about, well, Dr. X is on, you know, he's the one we use to bill for UHC, and Dr. Y is the one we use to bill for Aetna. You know, and oh gee, you know, we can bill this much for UHC, we bill this much for Aetna. You know, that adds so much cost on the provider side. And then, you know, who's in network, who's out of network. I've got to make some phone calls to find out. It looks like some of my stuff is being billed as out of net, or being treated as out of network, even though UHC is part of the network. And I have to find out what's going on there. But, you know, if we had a single payer system where everybody had health insurance and paid according to their ability to pay, If you're unemployed, automatic coverage. If you're earning $100,000, you pay, $350 a month or whatever it turns out to be. Everybody's got the same coverage for all the essentials. And oh gee, if you happen to want to get cosmetic surgery, you get a rider. You get a rider that covers things like your non-essential. Covers your non-essentials like oh, you want Botox or you want non-essential liposuction or whatever. You want to get a facelift. Let the people who can afford it get their riders for that. But or pay for it out of pocket. I'm sure that if someone like Elon Musk or Bezos or Bill Gates or Warren Buffett needed to have plastic surgery to fix a broken nose or whatever, they wouldn't end up having to worry about it because, here, comes out of my petty cash box type deal. But, mental health, going to a shrink, a therapist, call it what you will, going to a mental health professional and talking through things. We shouldn't think any different about that than going to a doctor for a broken bone, a gash, cancer, whatnot. I mean, it's just like going in for getting an oil change for your car. Every now and then you need to check to see if there are any screws loose up in here. And those folks are trained to notice the little bit of yarn underneath the door off in the dark corner that leads off to a yarn monster. But seek out help. Don't be afraid, even if you've got family and whatnot to help you, because this is a rough time for even if you got friends and family. And there's the house. But even if it's just even if you've got the wonderful support networks, don't be afraid to reach out, be it to other friends or be it to professionals. The one thing I would say, I would put into the whole mix my Destiny, my sweet girl. Yeah, my baby girl. Even if your primary care physician says that they know what they're doing, unless it's an emergency or you're seeing a therapist already and you are looking at an initial prescription, don't rely on primary care physicians, your normal doctor, for the antidepressants if you're feeling depressed for something like this. Go to the folks who not only have their regular doctor, MD, but took the time to take the extra classes. Go to the specialist. I mean, would you trust your primary care physician to do cancer surgery like this or do the radiation treatments. Myself, you know, regular doctor is for doing the referrals, you know, identifying who you need to see if you need that sort of help, and making sure that you're generally healthy. You know, something like this, I want a dermatologist or an ENT. If it's brain cancer, you know, I want a someone who's got experience operating on the brain for cancer. You know, if it's something else, you know, I want a proctologist, podiatrist, you know, pick your specialist. And in the case of mental health, you know, yeah, your PCP might know what the antidepressants are and know what the doses normally are. But they can also sit there and they know the little gotchas. You know, the professional, the ones that went to become the specialist know the little gotchas. Oh, you know, you're down a couple weeks of the month and the rest of the month you're sitting there and you're climbing the walls. That's not depression. You know, they'll sit there and they'll say, oh, you know, that sounds like it might be bipolar. You know, let's look at things closer. And you give someone who is bipolar antidepressants, and you can cause more problems. And, you know, going to a therapist plus a going to a psychiatrist and a psychologist, you know, combining therapy with and help you out and know what to watch out for. But we're gonna end this and see if we can't get them edited together to combine them all into one. But something other than Happy World Cancer Day 2020. You know, this is what those of us going through this mess are going through. So here's hoping you actually have someone there for you to help you deal with it, and you know, keep up the battle even though it's tough. I know. Believe me, I know. But here's hoping for a cure. And this is what I get to deal with each night before bed. Half an hour of having these things in with the horrible toothpaste-like stuff for fluoride treatment. Because radiation can cause damage to the teeth and jaws and such, they end up giving you, when you're dealing with head and neck, these fluoride trays to treat your teeth, to keep you from having to have teeth extracted later on and have major problems. And the stuff tastes like crap.